Hello, hello. It is Friday, the weekend has begun. I didn't sleep at all, really, of value last night, so I am properly tired. But we did so well yesterday that I was very pleased with myself, and I was also pleased with all the lovely friends that we met. Sorry, drinking cool drink before I still have heat stroke. Anyway, it is time. It is time. So, if you hear outside sounds, it's because my door is open. Because it is. Stupid out. If you hear dog noises, that was Miss Grumpiness herself. Actually, I was going to come down and do this bit, but I'm not. I'm going to put you back. All a bit long. So, cross you and cross you, you're too long. And you just got longer, I watched you. Just going to shorten everything because it's all too long. You know what? I need my fan. That's what I need. Probably my Scotty bottle actually. But I definitely need my fan. Alexa, fan on. Sorry, Mr. Woodpecker. Did I scare you? I think I just disturbed Mr. Woodpecker. But what I really saw was a flash of feather and he was gone. But where he ended up sitting makes me think he was Mr. Woodpecker. How come these bobbins constantly get longer? frankly shocking. Hello, hello, hello. How are you? Hello, hello, Nautica. Good. Wow. Wow, so many people have all turned up. Thank you very much. Yes. Hello, everybody. Well, I thought I really ought to get on with the last of the triangles. I mean, I've only got this empty bit to go, and all of the ones I intended to make for the half are completed. I will say that the audition strips really do look pretty cool. So if I put this down, for those of you who have not seen, the audition strips are looking mighty fine, if I say so myself. So there's the last two to go with these three, and I've got one more I need to make. But I'm really excited for these, and as I say, I've got a couple more motifs to make, and then I will put up to judge for everyone that I know to vote, to say I like, and it'll be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kind of thing, all the way to the end, and vote on your top 5 in favourite order kind of thing. I don't overly hate any of them. I do dislike how here, because the top and bottom of each of these three motifs is a rose ground, it makes this fake line down it. So I wouldn't choose to do those. I would want them more separate, or just to do a rose ground on its own, like this one. I don't like the starting and finishing the diamond with a rose ground. I feel these two came out much nicer, and they do not start with a rose and finish with a rose ground. So with all of that in mind, but I don't hate any of them. I have ones I like a bit more than some of the others. So, for example, I like this, but not for a neck curl. Similarly, I like this, but this was too big and baggy. But its counterpart, which is this one, which was a slightly smaller one in a square, looks a lot better. So, other than that, I'm not really anti any of them. So, I don't know. So hence I'm going to have to ask you all to help, because the Queen of Indecisive cannot spend the next 3 years going, right? Now, I will say, for strange reasons, I am drawn to these two. I like this, and I kind of like this, and I think that the extra holes and the extra density would work quite nicely as a pattern. Then we have other decisions. So, as demonstrated by the 5 strips that we've got, bear in mind, technically it's 6, I'm hoping to do 7. So, 6 will give me the exact width of my window. An extra one would cover the door frame, the window frame, right? So, there can be an odd number, but I think the snakes on everything with motifs might be a bit much. But again, it depends on the motif, right? And how often we do them. So do we then consider doing kind of like with, without, with, without, with, without, with? Or just at the edges? Or at the edges and in the middle? Or not at all? I do like the snakes. But given that they're going to run the full length of the curtain, they could get a bit much. Because bear in mind, the actual length of the curtain is 4 times the length of these 2 strips. So these amount to half a strip. But other than that, you know, while I made mistakes, because inevitably I made mistakes, I do feel I made a lot less mistakes making the scripts. And it's not because they were new. I think an awful lot of the mistakes come when I have to sort out bobbins, when I have to unstick them from pins, when I have to... And of course, with strips, there was a lot less of that. So there were a lot less mistakes. Because you don't get halfway through something, discover your bobbin's tangled or too long or being irritating. So you don't stop in the middle to fix it and then forget where you got to. Even though forgetting is not really the word, because it should be right in front of you. But I don't know. I find myself lacking. That's definitely the word for it. Definitely lacking in... I am not... You know, I haven't looked at any single one of these and gone, oh my god, that's the one. Now, I am, as I said, I am drawn to these 2. But that doesn't mean for a net curtain I'm just drawn to them. I mean, there can be a pretty colour, but it doesn't mean I want my entire house painted in it. So I don't know. It is confusing. And an awful lot for the adult brain cells. Because I've still got heat strokes, so I am very much struggling. But we are trying hard. Maybe not as hard as we could do. You know, I'm not going to pretend that there isn't a level of lacking. But we are trying, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So yes, I am feeling pleased with myself now. But yeah, my brain is definitely lacking. What's everyone up to this weekend? Hang on. Hang on, hang on. Oh. At 6 o'clock in the morning, it should be illegal. I like the blue. Nautical, I do like the blue. I think it works as a pale colour. I also think it would work just as well as a darker colour. So, to be honest, I think it does work. I mean, it's like everything. It depends what you really wanted from it. And of course, you know, that is a thing. So Nautical's making one of his lovely rope mat things. And hence he was asking me what I thought of the colour. And he's got a kind of a flecked normal rope and a light blue as the outside, kind of defining the edges. Yeah, I'd agree with the preference. It looks a bit more blue on screen. I'm not going to deny that. Yeah, they do. And I think that's part of the reason it doesn't look wrong. Forgive the analogy, but it's a bit of a toothpaste colour. The colour's a bit toothpastey. But it's not a bad colour. It's just, you know, yeah, I can see it. I mean, it looks bluey to me, but that's, again, partly the lighting and, you know. Yeah. It's kind of, yeah, it's still looks a bit blue, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a nice colour. You know, I really not gonna. For those who are wondering what we're talking about, I'm gonna post this thing. There you go. Yeah, aqua. So it is kind of bluey green, as you say. So it's very much a toothpastey colour. There's nothing wrong with it. There really isn't. Yeah, mint flavoured toothpaste. It's. I mean, it's not like it's bright pink or something hideous, right? I mean, I trust you not to be wet, but you know. I mean, it doesn't look wrong. I think that's the key part of everything is it doesn't look wrong. Yeah, it's subtle, but it's visible. It's not so subtle you miss it, but it's not strong and bold. It has a place in the world, you know. Well, think of it this way. Are you keeping the mat? Well, there is that. But, I mean, the other choice, of course, is that if it's for you, then the colours really matter. Well, then it doesn't really matter if you don't like it, because the person getting it is the one that's going to like it. Right. Fair enough. Yeah, worn rope's obviously got a lot of the spiky harshness beaten out of it, which is must be quite nice. Thank you. So yeah, I think, but as you're giving it away, no, I wouldn't worry about it. There's always the times when, you know, you look at something on someone and you go, someone asked for that? Someone actively chose and wanted that? Who are we to judge them, Naughty Cat? Who are we to judge? Someone out there will think that is the best thing in the history of the universe. You just have to find them. Well, there you go. No, I must admit, I find that with some of the work that I do is that people go, oh, that's brilliant. And you look at it and go, it looks like my dog ate it. Come on. And sometimes it is a bit frustrating. You want proper, honest opinions. And it's hard to get proper, honest opinions. And then when you don't want honest opinions, everyone's happy to share, you know? Anyway. Most crafters are critical of themselves, Naughty Cat. We are our worst enemies. We are perfectionists. It's very normal for us crafters to be, oh, I screwed that up, that's shit, that's terrible, oh my god, what idiot did that, you know. And because we wanted better of ourselves, because it's not like we set out to make a mess. We set out to be as perfect as possible. And sometimes it didn't turn out that way. And it is really disappointing. And it's something that only another crafter truly can relate to. And it doesn't matter what the craft is, but it has to be another crafter in that they will look at something they've done and only see flaws. Everyone else will see gorgeous whatever, but the maker looks at it and see all the things that are wrong. Well, depending on what that is, Naughty Cat, depending on what those issues are, I would argue that if you are aware of what is going to be the problem before you've even finished it, surely you have opportunity to fix it before that occurs. Yep. I get the principles. Yes. Correct. Yes. Yes, splicing being a bell ringer, I can understand that. Right. But it must be out by a predictable amount. Yes, that may be. I mean, I would imagine that in true technical terms, there is some long calculation. Um, well, you see, that's the problem. I think, you know, it is a numbers game, and it's a bit like how long should my strings be to make my lace. That people don't talk about it, but there must be a fairly accurate way of doing it. The problem is it's too long, too complicated, and no one bothers. And there must be a way to make a prediction. Right. Yeah, and I think sometimes, especially with crafting, sometimes it's the finishing that that almost breaks a project. That you can really enjoy the making of it, but not the spending hours, you know, sewing in ends, splicing ends, knotting ends, trimming ends, whatever the ends are. It's always an end issue, right? But having having that sorted is not an easy thing, and it, you know, depending on the hobby and what you've done, you know, if you made a really complex knitting thing with tons of different coloured yarns in little sections, almost doing like the equivalent of a mosaic in knitting, right? There's going to be an absolute crap ton of ends. And as a result, you may have spent, say, I don't know, 3 weeks knitting it, but you'll spend 6 weeks sewing the wretched ends in it. And it really puts you off doing it. And you end up kind of wanting to cut a few corners because you've really had enough of it now, because the fun is in the making. And this is where I've always struggled a bit with my weaving, in that I love weaving, but I love the weaving bit, not the prep and the finishing, you know? Yes, I love crafting, but sometimes the extra work is hard work, and it's something that people don't non-crafty people can't relate to, because they can understand that for the thing to appear you had to do work, but they don't necessarily understand that it took 3 times longer to set it up and 5 times longer to finish it. I mean, take what you're doing. You've made your basic shape, but you're now making it all tidy and tight and perfect, as indeed you would. But people don't see that. They just imagine you kind of go shapety, 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 shape, ta-da, you know? Which is why I think, you know, why it's... And, well, I was saying this on stream the other day. If you think... I mean, I was saying on stream the other day how if I do strips, it looks like it'll take me a year to make my curtain. You find me a person who's prepared to pay even a year's minimum wage for one fucking net curtain. Because unless you find someone like Elon Musk, it ain't going to happen. No one's going to pay a year's wage for that. But it's not a year's wage because it's not 40 hours a week. Well, then, you know, it's more. Well, you know... Still hot, people. Oh, you've been busy. Of course, you realise this is going to confuse the hell out of anyone who watches this on YouTube, aren't you? They can have the other half of the conversation, yeah. Hey, naughty Kelp, is it hot as Satan's left ball sack where you are? Or is it okay? Because, of course, you have added breezes that I do not get. That sounds like a plan. On the good note, I mean, to be honest, on the good front, my old employer has paid up the missing part of my bonus. Wow. So my last employer paid up the remainder of my bonus. So I am actually contemplating getting a air conditioning unit. Not a big one of those little portable ones, but... Well, it is, but it's so hot and stuffy and horrible. And I'm not sleeping, and I've got wretched heat stroke as a result. Yeah, dropped me thing. Yeah, we've got... It's bright and cloudy, but it's also really, really humid. Yeah, it's really humid at the moment. One, two, three, four. According to Mr. Weather app, 25 degrees and 60% humidity. So, could be doing without that. It's going to be worse tomorrow, apparently. Um, that's harder. Hang on. I've only got mine in the list of things because obviously, you know, I only really check my own weather because I don't go anywhere. It says approximately 20 degrees where you are, but 70% humidity. So, yeah. But yours feels like 21, mine feels like 27, so that's probably why I'm suffering. Right. Time to extract bobbins to this side. And we need... Oh no, that's right. We need all of these. So you four go over there. And I need you. And we twist you. And do the thing. And we steal the pins from back here. All these loose threads are quite distracting. There's a pokey, sticky thing. You'll do. Just need something I can put in that loop. Pull it away a bit. There you go. You saw who? Oh, your vet. No, you didn't. You don't sound overly pleased about this, Right. Fair enough. We used to have a vet like that. He was called Mr. Simon. And Mr. Simon was... Yes. Mr. Simon was always very good with our dogs. Whenever you took an animal to the vet, he ignored you, pretty much. And he made the animal feel so welcome. No matter what was wrong with them, he talked to them like they were his, but long lost friend. And all of the animals that I saw ever go near him absolutely adored him. And it was kind of sad for us that he decided to go and specialise in farm animals. He got married and it was the last time we got to see him. But we were invited to his wedding, which was really nice. So, you know, he obviously thought fairly highly of us because he certainly didn't invite all of his patrons. So, but we really liked Mr. Simon. The lady who took over his vet, no, not at all. Interestingly, though, the people who used to work for him now work for my current vet. So, but yeah, Mr. Simon was great. If you find a really good vet, it is nice. The vet practice I'm with has got a large number of vets in it. And some are good, some are bad. And when you make an appointment, you don't really get to pick, which is not always desirable. But that's the way it is, you know. I mean, if you're going for a yearly checkup, it doesn't really matter, but... yeah. No, but at the same time, they are people. They have lives. You might run into them in the store, you know. And as you say, she was probably out getting a snack for her lunch. Yes. bobbin count didn't add up. There we go. You need to go there. Like that. And then one of you over there. Go in there. Yes, now you all have the right number of bobbins. Yay. You go over there. And come down here. You're too long. You go up here. Move that slightly. You can go down here. You can come back. So we've got the pairs of you and the pairs of you. Right. Oh, you douchebag. You utter fool. Definitely didn't twist that one. Don't think I twisted this one either. Just take you out. That didn't twist you. Kind of twisted you, but I don't think it made a difference. So let's twist you all before I forget. Again. And try this again. Bianca, how are you? We do. For the this is the original project I started streaming. I was going to make 18 squares and call them a net gun, but I have excessively gone off the hard line for the join for the squares. So we are switching to strips and starting again. Yes, I realise that it's been best part of, well, 8-9 months, but that's not the point. And as you can tell, if it would have taken 8-9 months to, well, we'll go with 8 because obviously the last month I didn't really do any. So at 8 months for half a curtain, as this will be, it would be another 8 odd months before I get to the end. But judging by the progression of the strips, we would achieve that within a year. So although it would take 4 months longer to get to the end, it would be 4 months to do a whole curtain, 4 months longer to do the whole curtain starting now, compared to half a curtain in this manner. And, you know, as someone who obviously spends a fair bit of her time flicking these bobbins around, I have given it considerable thought as to what could contribute to the difference in speed. Because, obviously, it's the same me, and lifting bobbin A is really no different to lifting bobbin B. So in terms of, and many of the stitches, in fact, are the same. In fact, pretty much all the stitches here are used in my audition strips. Because you have a cloth stitch belly, which is this solid bit, for the spiders. You have this grid bit for most of it. And these rose grounds have also featured. So we've used all of these stitches. So why is it that the strips are so much faster? Plus, I'm also more capable of joining them within a more eye-appeasing manner. So I feel I'd be stupid if I didn't kind of jump ship and join the and move to strips. For it will be a nicer curtain at the end of it. And I could have given up on this and just like chopped it off and walked away. But I don't tend to do that. I do tend to finish them. Am I going to sew it together? Maybe. The biggest problem is obviously that one of the advantages of this one is that if I want to make it a full curtain out of squares, I can make some more squares and sew them on the end. The strip method can't really do that, but I can make the strip method one wider in the same kind of manner. By adding a bunch of strips, I can sew them on the sides, and it will be... Now, I do have to decide if I'm going to leave the edges kind of as they are, or whether I'm going to make some method of finishing the edges so that they have a more distinct edge. So, you know, this is why the audition strips are so important. I have lots of decisions to make, and some of them I'm almost not capable of making. Because the adage that I use is that there can be some really beautiful colours. I mean, for example, much as I am not a pink fan, this pink is quite pretty, but I wouldn't paint my entire house in it. But it's, you know, it's not a bad colour, I don't dislike it, but I wouldn't paint all my walls in it, it'd drive me insane. And patterns can be like that. If I was making a king size bedspread, I would argue a tiny pattern would be horrendous because it would just look too busy. But if you're making a bookmark, you want a tiny pattern because you want a few repeats within the item you're making. So, you know, in terms of a 1 metre by roughly half a metre net curtain, I have to bear in mind the size of my project at the end. Now, I have seen some really beautiful stuff, and I would happily part with items of my soul to get the pattern for it, because there has been some stuff that would be glorious to make and I would be so proud of. So yeah, I don't hate the squares. I really don't. I just know I could do better, if you know what I mean. Now, I've just spotted a boo-boo, which is here. You were supposed to be a thing in this hole here. And now you go in there. I thought you'd have a bit less around. But realistically, this is exactly the same stuff as I was making before, just, well, in a square shape, with no spiders. They do. And it's much easier to represent on screen as the progress. Now, what I will do when I make the full strips, because they'll be 1 metre long, is I've got some paper measuring tapes. And what I will do is I will mark notions down the pattern. So when we print out and make the final pricking, so for example, if I grab this one, right, this is the first long one that I made, but instead of it just being that, I can print out on it in a nice big font, you know, almost like inch marks down the side, so that you can tell how far down we are, and you know, also then have almost like the same kind of gauge meter in the top right hand side that will, you know, with each of the strips that I intend to make and how far down I am on them. So I do think that that's definitely a thing. Now obviously with the strips, because you don't make flat as you come down, we will have to approximate it. Well, if nothing else, I want to know where I've got to, because I do think that when you're doing something that is pretty repetitive, so for example, all of these triangles are the same. That's part of the reason that I put up the graphic that I did, was that this triangle is the same as the last triangle, the one before, and the first one. Well, actually they're all different because it keeps screwing up in a new and unique way. But it is that frustration of, if you watched, you know, especially with the triangles, almost every week you were watching the same video. Because on Monday I'd start the top of the triangle, on Tuesday I'd work the next bit of the triangle, on Wednesday I'd work the middle of the triangle, on Thursday I'd do kind of like this bit of the triangle, Friday, Saturday and Sunday I'd do the bottom bit. Well, it was almost exactly the same spots each week, so they were kind of very repetitive and boring. And part of the advantage of not having the triangle not quite having the same definitive chunks. So, for example, when I say chunks, you know, if you think of this triangle, because obviously I work from here downwards, right? I have this triangle here that make of mesh, then I have this chunk, then I do this chunk, this chunk, this chunk, then I can do either this chunk, because I've got a choice, then I can do this chunk, then I can do this chunk, this chunk, this chunk, or go down here and do this bit. But realistically, like everything, you end up kind of doing it in the same order every time. And so it's too easy to end up starting and stopping in the exact same place. And I only have to look through my camera from that, because if I didn't take a photo of this, I've got a photo of it in the spot where I finish. I can guarantee I do. I did it at some point, and that's not what I want. So I do think that, you know, having, you know, strip number one in, say, the top left, you know, in a corner, you know, somewhere, and a, you know, the kind of like the temperature gauges of where we're at on the top right, like we've got now, but in strip format, will help you and me. Now, obviously, it's a lot harder for me to do as an update, but there may be ways that I can do it even with buttons on my Stream Deck, so that instead of having to go open up Paint and fill in a bit, save it, export it, and then it will be picked up, maybe I can press a button and it will, you know, so I pass the next inch mark and I lean over, I press a button and it goes boop and adds a little bit to the thing. So I will look at that, because I do think that would be a good thing to do. I can kind of think of a way of doing it, but it's a real friggy nasty way of doing it. It would be unpleasant, I think. I don't think it would be as good as my brain thinks it does. I'd have to write something. I'm very capable of writing something. But I would have to write something. But yeah, I you know, I am looking forward to it. So, you know, like everything, when you look forward to it, you kind of, there is a bit of you that doesn't want to do the thing you were supposed to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with that in mind, you know, hence not doing the next audition strip, but doing a triangle. Because of course, once I have completed this, there is no guilt in spending time on edges and triangle, and edges and strips, and working in lace 8 to make it happen, and all of those kind of things. So it would be a good thing and a sensible thing to do, to be honest. Because obviously I want to make the nicest curtain that I can. It is for me, after all. Yeah, but I also want to complete this, because this will give me half a curtain. So this should give me roughly half a metre square of squares. And, I don't know, if nothing else, I could attach them to one of these dark cloths and make a pretty cover for my lace cushion out of it. You know, it's not that I have to chuck it in the bin, you know, it's not, I'm not going to ceremoniously take it in the garden and burn it, you know, it's too much work for that. Do I want it as my curtain? Well, no, because I know that I'm going to make a better one. So, but I will probably still sew them together, and because, well, that's what they're for. They don't really need placemats, and so I'll probably, I think making a decorative top for my lace cushion is quite a nice idea. You know, because as you know, I pile loads of cloths on top, but I think having a lace one on top is quite a pretty idea. Why not? Yeah, at least makes use of it. and you guys would get to see it. It'd be a practical thing to do with it, and it wouldn't look so bad being a squarey one then, because it's not being a curtain. It wouldn't look, you know, it can be, it looks crafty-ish then, so that can be a, you know, that's not a bad plan. I might order some more cloth, of course, because, you know, day with the wire in it. Can never have too many cloths. But yeah, so it's not like I view this as wasted time and you know, just burning up the thread on the bobbins, because that's not it at all. But do I want it as a curtain? No, not really anymore, because I know I can do so much better. Which is kind of sad for it, really. Well, we have done a number of side quests, and that helps break up the monotony, because obviously, you know, this is triangle 30 something, right? 4 8 32 34, so this is triangle 35 or whatever it is, right? That's a lot of triangles, that's a lot of repetition. So we've done bookmarks, we've done, you know, we've experimented with joins, we've tried alternative sewings. Yeah, I ain't doing that one again. My sanity was, I mean, it was a very good join, but my sanity did not appreciate that. But of course, that is the other advantage of the strips, and I mean this with genuine joy. When I get to here and I have to join along this line, you have to do it significantly well enough, otherwise, well, it looks a little bit tack, right? Whereas, as we know from the joiny things over here, that this line here, potentially, which is we're going to find when we join the other ones to it, almost invisible, but also it's really easy to do. With this, you've got to spend hours poking, trying to pull up a bit of loop out of one of these to stick the other one through it and tie knots with it, but small knots, but big enough knots that they're strong enough, and then you've got to trim it down, and I like to glue them because I'm paranoid, right? But with the strips, I don't need to. I get to the bottom of the strip and I can tie big, ugly knot, because I'm going to encase it in something. I could get a bit of ribbon or whatever if I really wanted to make it pretty at the bottom. But I've got somewhere, she says looking and not seeing it directly, it's around somewhere, a big layer of bias tape for the top to make it strong. I could put a bit of silk ribbon on at the bottom to cover the knots at the bottom. And it would look really pretty. But the join in the middle, to join the strips together, is simple oversew. You literally start on the bottom left one and go over and up through the hole, over, down and up through the hole, over, up, down and up through the hole, and you go sideways, you know, back and forth. It's really easy. I mean, it's quite delicate, because obviously, you know, you're holding two things with like the weight of smoke, but they're not hard. They go quite quickly. They go a lot quicker than sewing these, and I mean an awful lot quicker. And although there will be obviously 6 or 7 joins, they won't take that long. whereas these seem to take me forever. So again, there is, you know, whereas I actually I never look forward to these joins. I look forward to joining the strips together. You know, it kind of, you know, when I discovered that I had successfully found a way of joining them together, basically invisibly, I was really pleased, because how it worked out was, well, A, how I thought it should work out, other than the obvious one, which is doing these kind of joins, but without the knots, which is how you join as you go with normal lace, and normally it's not a problem. But of course, normally you're doing it as one piece, and let's say I made the kind of rose ground squares first, you would then hang pairs off bits and the like to continue. But when you do that, of course, it's not the same as trying to join two strips together. So it is, you know, it kind of mattered that it showed a lot more than I wanted it to. So it was a bit of a shame, because to be honest, I was expecting that to be the answer. But the truth of it is that it works like they did in the 17 and 1800s, exactly the same, only I'm using a different lace technique. So instead of being absolutely perfect, it's close. But if I can't, I mean, I know that on my strips that I've joined together, the best join that I've done leaves a bigger hole. Well, that just means I've got to go up and then come back down. I only went up one side, which leaves this one with less thread through it, so of course it will look bigger, because, well, technically the hole is bigger. So with that in mind, it's not a big deal. So I'm really confident I can join this with very little to show for it. And even though it would be nice if it was perfect, the style of lace that I'm after, that I would have to do, is less me. Now, I love it, but it's more flowery, and I don't really want flowers on my neck gun. So, I mean, I probably will make one at some point, because, you know, I will want to do a perfect one. You know how it is. You know, you want to do that unicorn. You want to prove to the world that you're capable. But you know, to make the neck curtain that I want, this is the better kind of lace for it, because, I mean, this stuff is very, very light. I mean, look at it moving in the breeze. That's very neck curtainy, right? It's light, but it's not that delicate. I mean, you can give it a good tug. You know, it's kind of stretchy, but you can give it a good tug. It's not ridiculously delicate. Whereas the kind that would be perfect is a lot more delicate. And being a lot more delicate, well, not in this household. We don't do delicate in this household. It's kind of forbidden. So it is then a problem to me that I almost can't use the right form. Well, no, and it's also being a utilitarian object rather than a decorative object. So if I was making a wall mount that was just going to sit behind a glass frame on the wall, yes, absolutely. But not being a delicate lady, I could not, I mean, I know that they used it for shawls back in the day out of the very delicate stuff, but I'm a rhino in a china shop, right? Delicate is not a word that ever gets associated with me. So it would be wrong and futile to have spent months making it for it to, you know, get ripped as I try and put it on the pole to hang it up, right? It would be heartbreaking. And that's part of the reason I've been gluing the edges here. Is the other thing that would be heartbreaking with these was the idea of I spend hours making these wretched squares and then need to wash it, because inevitably you need to wash net curtains eventually, and the damn thing fell apart. Can you imagine the heartbreak of like 18 months of making squares and triangles and all the rest of it, and to see that you put it in a jug, you didn't put it through the washing machine, no, you put it in some warm soapy water, kind of did a little bit of this, and suddenly that was it, you know, dead. Yeah, so I didn't want that, hence I glued them. So, I see that did not work. Let me go look in this. Interesting. Huh? 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 My add thing didn't work. For some reason, let's try putting that back. So, I know it says 3 minutes, don't believe it, it's going to end in 22 seconds. But it will actually turn off after 3 minutes, I think. So, or it might. Yeah, it didn't turn it off. So, why did that not work? Why is this not working? Hang on a minute, let me have a look. Dying somewhere. I'm just going to quickly poke a couple of bits. Click on the line in the middle, thank you. Okay, so that does turn it on. Okay. And then that should turn it off. Confused. Don't know why that's not working, because it's in my ear. It tells me the ad started, but it's not being shown the box. But the box is there. No idea. Sure. I'm still mad that I spent all that time setting up the camera and then the cam stopped working again. Yes, they will have done. I was testing the little box that didn't display that the ad timer was that the ads were running. And the answer is I don't know why it didn't work, so... Much like I don't know why the camera isn't working, and the company who provide the camera and the buttons are not helpful. Because all they do is go, can you reinstall it? How many frigging times have I got to reinstall this thing? You know I work in IT, and I do know that occasionally, sometimes a reboot and a reinstall does fix it. But I think I've already reinstalled it 4 times now. So unless you change something, it's probably not going to make any difference. But it did work last weekend when I didn't reboot for Saturday and Sunday. And then it stopped again. Which was highly annoying, because I bothered setting it up so that there are actually buttons. You could actually have commands and zoom in and zoom out and look at bits and, you know. But they don't work at the moment because the camera thing's not responding. Well, it is responding to the app, but the button thing and the thing that OBS talks to doesn't see the camera. But they're the same company. It's not even like, oh, well, maybe they're out of sync. No, it's the same company. And it was working, and it just suddenly stopped. And I kind of know why, but there's no option for me as the end user to change any of the things that are wrong. So I'm slightly infuriated. Because obviously, like everything, paid money for buttons and camera and, deliberately actually bought ones that were kind of compatible with each other for sure, because, and well, it worked for ages and suddenly now it's not. I mean, it's worked for like 9 months and then suddenly it stops. What the fuck, And that's the bit that annoyed me, is I did not actively do anything obvious to make it stop working. It's just one day it wasn't. Now, I'm quite good at knowing what I did to my computer, because, well, it's what I do for a living. But I didn't do anything. It just, one day, that was it. It was not doing it no more. I spent quite a lot of time working on the camera thing, because once I got it to work, I made, zoom in and zoom out, and you can move to a particular position or by so much, and all of these kind of options, so that you really did have a level of control of it. And this looks wrong. because things are looped around things they shouldn't be. You around this pin and shouldn't be. Okay. Is that enough? Does that sort it out? No. No, it does not. So let's undo this. Take this pin out and undo this, because if you look, this seems to be coming from the wrong place. So let's undo this and undo that, and you go in there. So that means one of you's likely not what I wanted. Slightly confused because 3 strings seems to come out of here, but I don't actually think is 3 strings. Because this one is on its own. Oh, stop moving! I know I'm leaning on it, it's because I haven't got a choice. But they're in pairs, so you are definitely one of you. I think you got underneath this pin by mistake. Gonna take a guess and lift this pin and give you a pull. There you go. See? I know my stuff. So you two are together. No, it's still not right. Let's take this pin out a sec. You and you form that pair. You are nothing to do with it. You. Now I need to go. Hang on, there's a pin missing. Should be one in here too. Should be one in there. About there. Right. So let's put you in. So, you're a pair. You're a pair, which makes... Well, I'm going to make you a pair, because, well, I'm not sure you were a pair, but you are now, so... I'll go all the way back there to fix it, so... Might look slightly frigged, but I can't see how it would be any other way. See, what's puzzling me? No, this isn't sitting right. Oh, nightmares. This is the problem with this, is that sometimes it doesn't look right. Now, sometimes it doesn't look right, but actually it is. And other times it doesn't look right, and it's actually not. The problem is that that looks fine. Looks fine up until there. It's from here on out that it possibly goes wonky. Now, is it... Why is it... Is it that you, some of you are also in the wrong place. So if I take yeah, you're wrong. You're also in the wrong place still. So if we lift you up and we pop this pin, you are up here. And we put the pin back in the hole like that. So you two are the next pair there, and you two are this pair. And I am 99% confident that I have sorted it. See how this looks. See, that looks right. That still looks reasonable. They're a bit long. Pop you in there. How does that look? That looks fine. I did sorted it. I did fix it. Go me. Well, I'm not quite sure how I achieved it. The reason I'm not sure is because you work downwards, so like I'm coming down here, I was going that direction. So, well, I was coming down this direction. And one end from here ended up to the right. Now, I guess because that would have been the bottom edge, there is more of a chance, but it feels like it kind of went back wind, which is kind of not really possible, but it is sorted now, so that is a good thing. That faux pas has been diverted. I mean, don't get me wrong, one of the most classic parts of me making these triangles is getting to the end of the triangle and looking at it and going, well, I screwed that up, I screwed that up, I screwed that up, I screwed that up, I made that mistake, I didn't do that there, you know. So, to be honest, you know, there'll be something else to make up for it, I'm sure there will. I'll have done something new and exciting. Because sometimes you do look at it and go, how on earth did I achieve that, you know? really doesn't help that they just seem to spend their entire life getting longer. But this is why it gets baggy, and then when of course you tighten it, it gets longer. It's actually how it gets longer. It doesn't get longer. It loses tension, and then because it's lost tension, when it tightens up, it gets longer. Which is why I quite like my weighty bobbins, because they tend to keep enough tension on it that they don't do that quite so much. They do. I mean, this is not, you know, it's not unreasonable, but they do make nice noises. But as you can see, this one's got baggy, and if I tension it now, it's gone off the screen because, well, it got longer. So that's what happens to them. But it always seems to do it when you're not looking, you know. Because this is what I mean by going backwards, because the one that I've just unsorted, I would have started from, was basically this bit on this triangle. So I'm working here and coming this direction. So how did one of the later ends end up under an earlier pin? I must have had to have moved them or done something and screwed it up somehow. Maybe I took too many pins out and put some back or something. You done for this triangle. So you can go over there. Don't need you for a minute. Or you for a minute. Got an itchy ear, hang on. Remember I was saying about how the colour had come off a bit on the test strip that I was making? That I had noticed that certainly for some of the threads there was a bit of a shade darker. Well, first of all, there's white. Now it's quite subtle. Hang on, let me see if I can zoom in. Hang on, I'll need the camera app. Hang on. camera out, please. Let's zoom it in, right? So there's the white bit. But if you look, it's definitely darker. I mean, it's in the light that you see, it's not as obvious, but you can see there is a slight grey hue to it. So I do need to go over my bobbins again with a bit of another layer of varnish to help trap the stain in. I mean, it is, but what you don't need is for, you know, I mean, I don't suppose it shows quite so well, but on this one I know there were some threads that really did look grey. Yeah, you can see slightly that it's slightly greyer than this, and that is because they're all slightly greyer, but some are more grey than others, shall we call it. As I say, you know, it's not too bad, but what you don't really want is white one corner, dark the other, you know. I mean, in some ways, if it was to ombre gently and beautifully, we could go with that and call it a feature. But, you know, well, and that is definitely an issue. You know, and that, of course, is why as crafters we do struggle a lot, because once we've seen an issue in our work, even if it stands out to us, you know, I know, like one of the threads was this colour, right? And it's standing out as if it was that pink. And everyone's going, oh, I don't see it. And you're going, it's there. How can you not see it? It's like bright pink. And they're going, I don't see it. And you're kind of going, you're either being patronising, or you're really blind, or you're really dumb. I don't really see an alternative option. Now, the answer is because they didn't make it, they just see the beautiful thing that you made. To us, to someone who is a fellow crafter of the same variety, chances are they do see it, but also accept that, you know, mistakes happen and have, you know, but it is still a beautiful piece of work. For those who don't make the same kind of thing, though, they don't have that same expectation of knowing what they think it should look like. And so they can miss, frankly, what seems to be violently obvious things. So, for example, I did a weaving thing and it made diamonds in rows, right? And halfway down the scarf, there was a zigzag line and then more diamonds. But it wasn't exactly half, so it... And then I did it again about 6 inches later. And to me, the zigzag lines were horrendous, because the rest of the scarf was perfect little diamonds. And then there were these 2 rows of zigzags. And even when I kind of faded out, you know, took a picture of it, faded in black and white the bits that were right and left only in colour, that the bit, people going, I don't see what's wrong with it. Well, it's supposed to be diamonds, you ignoramus. How can you not? It becomes... I think nearly every crafter has an element of perfectionist. Now, 90% of the time, there is an element of failure. But it's not that we didn't try. And I think that a lot of our frustration with spotting yet another mistake, it's not that the mistakes are there. It's the fact that we know we tried so hard not to make them. I did a lot of Tunisian crochet pictures. And I love each and every one. But somewhere along the lines, I would lose some stitches. How? They're square. How do you lose them? I don't know, but I was real good at it. I was real freaking good at it. And to me, it always stood out horrendously. But to everybody else, they couldn't see it. And you're like, you know, it'd be a bit like spelling police box wrong on the TARDIS. How can you not see it, you know? See, look. If you look, you can see, without me zooming in, these have become loose. So the moment I tighten them, they become long. And it's this that drives me up the wall. Because I seem to spend my whole time shortening bobbins, which I wasn't having to do on the strips so much. I mean, I occasionally had to do it, but not very often. And again, as a result of not having to do that, that's time that I'm not wasting shortening and lengthening bobbins so much. And so, again, it makes it go faster and smoother and all of those kind of things. And you're not supposed to be twisted like this. And so you end up with a better result because, well, things are where you expected them to be, so they're not untwisted when they should be twisted or not twisted when they should. And so you end up with you end up with a much better result. I definitely think that's our biggest problem as crafters, is that when we look at our finished work, we've seen all the mistakes. Well, we've seen most of the mistakes we've made in it, and as a result, whenever we look at it, we see the collection of mistakes. We don't see the beautiful item we've made. We see it as a collection of mistakes, which is wrong. I mean, one of the things that the Japanese do that I think is really quite nice is, should they smash a plate, they repair it, but in a way that makes the repair obvious. So they fill it in with gold or silver and, make it part, because it's part of its history. It is what it is. It is never the same. But they don't then try and pretend to try and make it better. They celebrate the fact that it has history, and I wish we kind of did a bit more of that. I know that when I've spoken about, accepting that there will be mistakes, trying to forgive yourself when you look back and go, oh shit, because it's not that you didn't try. If you know you didn't try, then yeah, you can feel guilty for that. But we all know we didn't set out to make a mess. We didn't set out to get it wrong. But being human, there is a high chance we can succeed. And this was always the argument with my ex-husband, in that he said handmade items are supposed to have mistakes in. No, they're not supposed to have mistakes in. They can have mistakes in. We don't want them there. I mean, said no craft error, I'm going to F this up good, right? I'm going to take this thing I've been working on for 2 years and F it up in a spectacularly bad fashion. Doesn't happen. Should have seen me. I made him some cushion covers. Wove him some cushion covers. And They were beautiful. I cannot express to you. Well, exactly. If you deliberately F it up, it's not a mistake because you put it there. But when I made Trev these cushions, they're about the size of this pillow, so they're quite big cushions. And I wove this. It was a fairly simple enough pattern to the eye on the front, but it was really quite complicated as a weaver. So you had this secondary supplemental tiny thread. So literally it was threads like this compared to my normal threads, holding things together and hiding things and making things possible. And so instead of the traditional summer and winter where you end up with little specks, or even like, you know, the stuff you see on this, don't suppose it's going to reach, but here you can see through the white, you see little flecks of red because there's one little red thread holding it together, right? You didn't have that. You had these basically tiny individual threads. So although if you put them in bright pink and on black, you would have seen them, kind of thing. If you did black, and as I did electric blue as the colour, the black didn't really show through. And it meant that it looked, well, perfect. And I'd made a bit of plain weave backing, so I'd do like the cushion face and then a plain weave back. Cushion face, plain weave back. So I made a set of 4 cushions, right? And as I was sewing them together, I was putting a zip in them so that you could take the covers off to wash them. My sewing machine caught, so as I was doing the zip, it caught some of the cloth from underneath and sewed it in and ripped it. Now picture the look on my face. I was in tears because I'd spent hours weaving this shit, making the very cloth that I was working with, and my sewing machine had just ripped a great hole in it. In the end, because it did it to 2 of the 4, one was a tiny rip. Yeah, it wasn't the word I had for it. But because it did a little bit to one, it kind of caught it and made a ruckle in one, but it ripped like a real long, it was like this long, kind of L-shaped rip in it. I had to buy cloth to back to the cushions. And I hated myself for it. Because otherwise, these cushions were utter perfection. Hang on, I've got a picture of them somewhere. Hang on. It's about here somewhere. Hang on. So it's times like this when you're looking for pictures that you realise you don't have to take a lot of pictures of shit. It's before the draw loom. Now, it's not going to be the bestest picture and you're not going to fully appreciate just how perfect they were. But rest assured, you will get a bit of the hint. Hang on. Right, here's a close-up. So you can, if you look at this, hang on, I can't see. I'm taking the glasses off. Can't see if it's focused or not. But if you see that, I mean, there is a bit of a weaving mistake. Bite me near the bottom of the screen. But if you look, you don't see the blue. Oh, thank you, phone. You don't see the blue in the black. You don't really see the black in the blue. This was my masterpiece. Right, this came out so well, and on the other side is the reverse. So where it's black, it's blue, and it truly is utterly. It is like, and so you know, I was really dead proud of those pillows when I'd finished with them. But I ended up buying some fabric, and that bit my soul hard, because I'd tried so hard, and if I'd done it by hand and not by machine, which I am very capable of doing, it would never have happened. But I did the machine because I want, you know, machines do very good jobs of sewing, and they're very regular and strong, and, you know, I'd spent enough time, you know, chopping it, washing it, primping it, folding it, pinning it, and all the rest of it. And, you know, warping it takes me forever. So with all of that in mind, I kind of really wanted, I won't say I wanted it got rid of, I was sick of it, because I definitely wasn't. I was dead pleased at how it turned out. But I was less pleased when it ripped. I've probably got a picture of it ripping somewhere, actually. Because I know I took some pictures of the rip. There you go, there's a picture of one of the rips. You just can't come back from that. There is nothing I could do. I was devastated. But, as an example, there is a picture of... But there's the actual picture of the finished cushion. And, you know, it is a thing of beauty. You know, it's a beautiful cushion, and I made 4 of them, because there you go, I made 4 of them across my couch, right? And they look really good, but the backs don't match, and that hurt, you know. After all that effort of making them, of months, hours of weaving it all and making it pretty, it bit them, it ate them, and you could not have consoled me. Nothing could have made that better, you know. It was, it is, and I know Trev loves his cushions, do not get me wrong, I know. Well, at least the front survived, right? So at least the blatant pattern was fine. It was the plain back, which meant I bought plain black cotton, because they are cotton cushion covers. So I bought plain black cotton, but they're not matching now. And that matters to me, because I made every inch of that, except for the bugger bits, you know? It is soul destroying to have spent so much time on something, and for it to get, well, the only word, destroyed in the final putting together. You know, it's a bit like the cake decorator who spends hours decorating it and then putting it in the box and drops it. You know, there is no consolation for that. It's, especially as I was making them for someone else. Again, if it had been me, yeah, but it wasn't for me. So yeah, that was... But now I've got my drawer loom, I can make much more fanciful versions of that, and that would be cool. Because I could only really do 4 block stuff on the loom that I did that on, whereas now I've got a drawer loom, I can do many, so I could do much more complicated things, which is why I got a drawer loom, to do many more complicated things. I mean, to be honest, they'd make really good tea towels. Except for the fact that the threads that hold down the coloured bits, so basically you weave a normal black, in that case, black bit of cloth, but then you do have the coloured threads either on top or underneath, and these extra threads that just kind of bind it all together. But because they're really thin and delicate, you know, they're like these, they don't have a lot of strength, but they do look really good. So they'd work for clothing as a whole. I mean, with those, I meant to use upholstery thread and forgot, and just used normal overlocker thread. So really thin, quite snappable thread. But they have phenomenal strength, considering. So I really do like them. And because they're covers and they've got zips, should the cushion inside, you know, outlive its lifespan, just buy another cushion off Amazon and, you know, that's where the cushions came from. So, you know, just buy another cushion off Amazon and fill it, you know. But as you say, it's the kind of thing that only the creator is really aware of. People who come to view it later don't see that. They might notice that the backs are different, but they won't think of it as a problem. They'll just think it was intentional, or you got a different batch of material, or. They won't know that it broke your heart, you know. And sometimes that's quite sad because, you know, the emotional roller coaster you can go through making some stuff is horrendous. You know, when threads break, or, you know, the dog kicks it over, or the cat mauls it, or whatever it is, you know, it can totally destroy your you know, you can look at it thinking you may actually have lost the hours of work that you put in. You recover it, but maybe it's not quite the same at the end. Well, yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I can't draw for toffees, so... I mean, don't get me wrong, I have tried. Oh, God, have I tried. But I am utterly incapable. And especially depending on the medium, because of course you may sketch it out perfectly in pencil, but the moment you go to put the final lines on in the permanent marker, ink, pen, whatever it is, paint, if you end up with a wiggly line, well, it's shit now. I mean, it's obviously not shit, but in your eyes it could be. If you wanted a beautiful, great line, it's one of the things that I always admire when I watch artists on YouTube and stuff. They sketch out a thing and, you know, they get a rough drawing. Well, I can kind of do that. I mean, it doesn't look that good, but I can do that. But then they go, and they get like this machine quality line. And you're like, can't do that. Mine looks like someone with, you know, either way too much caffeine and sugar or drugs or something has done it, because it's kind of, and that was me doing a straight line. And it's like, I can't make a good finishing line. And of course, the finishing lines really do. Exactly. And so, and the more you try and concentrate, the worse it is. You're kind of like, it's like an earthquake. It's like trying to write something on a car journey and you're like, it doesn't work. It's not happening. And, you know, it's a car journey on cobbles. It's yeah. I can't do the finishing lines that make it from okay to great. I don't really start at okay, but I can't even salvage what I've done with some good lines, you know? And it is so frustrating. And, you know, you watch some of these people and it's like, dude, you are a machine. You are so good at this. But I guess like everything, some of it is practice. And even though I have tried very, very hard and put many hours into it, I am clearly, well, sucking at it. But the effort I've put in is not paying off. That's the right word. Which goes back to one of my favourite rants of the world, which is that, you know, for many people, there is nothing more damning and upsetting than someone's, you know, I don't know, let's say you go to classes to try and improve something or learn something from scratch. And teacher comes along and goes, well, I really thought you would have tried harder. But you were up all night doing that. You sat there in tears trying to do it. And this was your best effort, right? And they've just kind of gone, well, you could have tried. Darling, I spent like the entire week. I've slept for 2 hours this week because I've been trying to do this. And you're telling me I didn't try. And it is, but too many people will do it. They won't. Now, while it is arguably semantics, there is a difference between, if I say to you, you didn't try, how would I know? I was not there. I did not see. Now, I may have expected more of you. I may have thought that this would have come easier to you. I may have thought that you would find it, you would take to this like a duck to water. But telling you did not try when you were not there to witness it, you cannot see inside their head that they were, you know, sitting there sobbing over it. Never say to someone you didn't try. You can say to someone they didn't try if they didn't actually even start. That's a fair value. Because, well, they didn't even start. You know, if you're sitting there watching them and they literally don't start and they just kind of go, I can't do it. Well, okay. That, you know, there is a distinct lack of effort at that point. But otherwise, you've got to be so careful. Because if that was their trying the hardest and you've just told them that it was, you know, that it was, you know, it's shit and it was a complete waste of time and that was not enough effort, they will never try again. They will never put that level of effort in again. Now, it might be trying to push water uphill, which we all know is a little fruitless, but they didn't know that. You have to ask them, well, I don't feel that's kind of what you were hoping to achieve. You know, what did you struggle with? You know, there was something I read, and something I saw or read, don't entirely remember which. Instead of saying, I know, when someone tells you something, say, yes, that's right. I know is condescending. I know is belittling. Yes, that's right. It's reaffirming. But it achieves the same thing. You knew they were right. You knew that. But one doesn't make them feel like dirt on your shoe. The other does. And so going, yes, actually, yes, it does. Or, yes, that's possible. Rather than... And it isn't always easy to do. I mean, to be honest, it is not always easy to do. And it's one I definitely struggle with. But having been told throughout most of my life, because, you know, maybe you've just discovered, you know, something to you that is the most miraculous, sensible thing and you didn't know that. My friend's back in the UK. Welcome back, dude. But, you know, you do sit there with, because you know, people are not transparent. You can't see their CPU load while they work. You can't say how much effort or something. But if I said to you, you know, you came and went, Liz, I've just discovered how to do this. And I go, oh yeah, I know. Well, you sit there going, well, cheers, bitch. Right? Because you do. It is natural reaction. And I've always had every single thing I ever did well at, people have dismissed. Right? And I get it at work. Constantly. I will work something out that people didn't know, and they expected it of me. So no one's ever pleased for me. No one's ever grateful for it. And now, do not get me wrong. I do not want to be the centre of attention, which is why this things like streaming is quite hard for me, and why you don't see my face. Because at least with a layer of abstraction, I do feel a little more comfortable. But, you know, one of the things that I struggle with is it frustrates me that people expect me to know. They expect me to work stuff out. But it's fine for them not to. Well, so why have I got to do it? Oh, well, because you're so good at it. No, I'm not good at it. I just bother. There's a difference, right? And a lot of the time, in the situations I'm thinking of, it is because they didn't even try. They didn't think about it. They never took the time to give it a go. I did, and I've discovered that X happens when you do Y, right? And it's kind of like, oh, good, thanks for that, and you know, it's gone. But I spent a week on that, but it was your job. It's, you know, and well, it still recognised that it was not for you really to do it. So, for example, there was something at work in the recent months where there was a problem. And on day one, I identified that the thing that was demonstrating the problem was not the cause of the problem, that this certain activity had caused the problem, but the team that had caused the problem were denying it. Well, because in part, and I will stand up for them a little bit, on the grounds that it was their sister department, of which they are a subgroup of, had done some work, that they had physically done the actual work for them. Thank you, Willow. Thank you very much. But this team had done a network change, and as a result of the network change, some bad activities were happening. And I identified exactly what those activities were. But the problem is for the next 2 weeks, my boss insisted that we spent time proving it wasn't us. Well, I've already done that. And we went through lots of meetings, and I did lots of things proving that it's not this and it's not that, and this is showing it the most, but we see it here and here and here, and so it's not just this, so it's not this product, it's got to be something else. The only commonality is this. Yay! I'm always appreciative when people come to see lace. I mean, to be honest, lots of people who watch are not into lace, but enjoy watching people craft, and that is distinctly a thing. Because I do it. I watch people who craft, but it's not necessarily a craft I personally do, but I like to appreciate the effort that has gone into it. Because, you know, maybe I'm idly curious as to how that works, because I am an idly curious person. But at the same time, well, and that can be a thing, you know, it is one of those things is that, I mean, if you've ever watched enough TV or enough YouTube, there are times that you're sitting there going, I mean, I will assure you, Willow, you could do this if you would like to. You know, all of us can do this, because if you can lift a thing and place it over the other side of a thing, you can make lace. That's all you have to do, and stab it with pins. It takes a bit of practice to make it look reasonable. But even I fail at that, so, you know, I'm not going to brag. But you know, everyone could. We were discussing the other day the difference between, I was saying to someone earlier about the difference between, you go somewhere and people go, I couldn't do that. Well, no, not with that attitude. No, you wouldn't. I can't do that at this time. I haven't the time to learn that. I haven't got the money to buy the materials and all the extra gubbins to make that happen. But you don't need a lot of stuff. To learn lace making, and we covered this yesterday, this is a felt pinboard tile. It's about a centimetre wide. Look. You can make lace on this. I bought 6 off Amazon for about £8 because I'm British. You need some pins. Buy some pins. You need some thread. And you can buy thread off Amazon. Buy some thread. Nothing fancy. And something to wrap the thread round so you can pick it up and put it down. They do not have to be bobbins. They can be crayons. They can be pencils, pens, pen lids, meat skewers. The wooden meat skewers are better because obviously you can buy quite a lot of those. Lollipop sticks. Because, for example, I made these. That's right, I'm undoing a bag, you can't see that. I made these. I made these bobbins. These bobbins are cheaper than these bobbins. Now, these bobbins were cheap. These bobbins are even cheaper. But these are my bobbins, and I like them. And I made them the way I wanted them. If you want to make them neon pink, you make them neon pink. I coloured mine black, because, like my soul, right? But I made these. I bought the sticks, pre-chopped. I glued beads on it, because that's all it is. And in colouring them black, because I did it with a Sharpie pen, I did go over them with a layer of matte varnish so that it sealed it in a bit. And I need to do another layer because it has come off a bit. But the truth of the matter is, if I'd painted them, I wouldn't have had to have varnished them. I could have painted them. I could make them any colour of the rainbow. You can buy lollipop sticks that are the same size. They're plastic. So you could have plastic ones. They're even cheaper. Glue a few plastic pony beads on it. Ta-da, now you got bobbins. You do not need fancy. Now, we all like fancy. We all want the diamond encrusted, gold plated, virgin hand reared vestal, holy of thou thing. But we can't all afford the thing. Would we all like to be driving around in the sexiest supercar? Of course we would. Do you really want to pay for the upkeep of it? No. I would give my soul to own a McLaren F1. But I also found you've got to replace the entire petrol storage on it pretty much every 18 months at £5,000 or £6,000 a go. My car barely cost me that, and it's now 13 years old. That's just one bit, let alone the brakes and anything, tyres, which are a small mortgage. And then there's the insurance and the fact that it will rip through fuel, which over here is ridiculously expensive. All of these aspects. Yes, I'd love to drive one. But, it would be a waste of money. And, with lace making, you do not have to have expensive stuff. You can have cheaper stuff. And it is definitely worth doing it with the cheap stuff, knowing that it might feel better and a bit more natural with, let's call them professionally made items. But if you want to know whether you like the feel of it, if you wanted to take up knitting and you'd never knitted before, you're not going to buy diamond encrusted gold knitting needles. You're going to buy a pair of cheap pony metal or plastic ones and see if you get the stabbing thing down. Because if you don't and you actually discover you hate it, you want to have spent as little as humanly possible. There was a post I saw on Facebook the other day in the lace making group of a lady who had bought loads of stuff and decided it wasn't for her. Well, that's why you don't buy lots of stuff first. You shouldn't have had... You shouldn't have had ads. Did we run ads? Did I miss it? Did I sleep through it running ads? I'm supposed to say something. Oh, 6 minutes ago, yeah. But yeah, it is, you know, don't... They're often quite short on crafting streams, to be honest, because most people don't really advertise to people. It's only the high, you know, you usually only get max ads for the gaming community, because you need to have, well, who's going to pay for me to put out, I mean, according to Twitch, there are 8 people watching. It's not exactly going to raise them a lot of money, is it? But I very much recommend almost trying before you buy. Do it in a make and mend variety first, because you may decide that it takes too long, that, I don't know, lace isn't your thing. But A, you'll have given it a go, so you have a better understanding of how it all works. But you'd be surprised. My favourite lace pillow is a styrofoam cooler lid. This cost me 40-something £40. It came with some product I bought, styrofoam cooler lid, I prefer over this. Sometimes it can surprise you. And as I say, my favourite bobbins are the ones I made. So, you know, I mean, it is one of those things, is that don't feel you need to blow half your salary on all the expensive stuff. Now, obviously, there are things that you can't really do without putting your money in, you know, where your mouth is. So, for example, you can't learn to drive without a car. You could hire one, maybe, but they don't tend to hire off to learners, so that wouldn't really work. But, you know, you'd still have to buy a cheaper car. It still has to be road legal. It still has to be... Stuff over here in the UK doesn't tend to be common. There's a local auction house. That's what I was trying to think of the word. And they post every week about what's going to be on auction. I have never seen any weaving stuff, any lace making stuff, any spinning stuff. And I live in an area of the country which is quite well known for grafting. Now, it does make me wonder whether they've looked at, say, a broken up loom and gone, what the actual heck is that? And, you know, used it as firewood, probably. Well, it is, because, well, I'd go and stick my bids on it. But I have said to them, if they ever get any crafty stuff and they don't know what it is, they can always give me a shout and I'll try and help them, you know, get a better explanation for people trying to buy it, what it is, if, you know, kind of thing. But I've never seen a single thing. No bobbins. I mean, there's been a couple of sewing machines, but they've been the, you know, cheap 80s plastic half dead ones. Well, let me extract this off my table. Hang on. Let me dig this off here. So, I've got this. Now, I'm going to show you something, and I am aware that it looks like a medical device of an intimate nature. Okay? It looks a lot like a speculum. Okay? I appreciate that, because, well, it truly does. This is a bobbin winder. Now, I can imagine someone looking at this and going, what in the actual heck is that, and chucking it in the bin, especially if it was slightly broken. So if this wooden bit was a bit broken, what the hell would that have been? And they just ditch it. You know, I definitely think that that's quite happy. And you know, if you look at a lot of weaving looms, if you think of the floor looms when they're all in a big pile of wood, they just look like a big pile of wood. And there are some funky notches and some holes in it, but it's not clear what they are. Only a loom user would know it's a loom. And floor looms are not cheap. So if you wanted to take up weaving, to be honest, even the cheap options aren't cheap. I've got a little Ashford, I think it's 8 shaft, 12-inch wide table loom. That thing was nearly £1,000. That's a lot of money to find out you don't like it. And of course that only really allows you to make, I mean, you can make wider, but you know, by default makes like this wider thing. Well, it's not very wide, hardly making blankets with it. Now you can make 24 inches wide. Technically you could make 48 inches wide if you tried really hard. But you'd have to try pretty hard, and chances are you'd muck it up because, well, you would. But you find yourself kind of sitting there going, for £1,000, and if I didn't like it, now sure you could flog it, but you're not going to get £1,000 back. And there aren't that many second-hand ones going around because, well, there just aren't. And you know, even the second-hand ones are expensive. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity of first dibs on a dobby-based weaving loom. Now, for those who do not know what dobbies actually do, and they're not necessarily house elves in Harry Potter, they are punch card or computerized kind of thing. And when I say punch card, in effect, sometimes they're punch cards, sometimes they're like little pegs you put in holes, so there's pegs or no pegs kind of thing, or they're electronic. And I had an opportunity for a second-hand one. Second-hand, no guarantees on it. Not even necessarily working. It was £8,000. I had to pass on it. I'd expected it to be a lot more affordable than that, especially not knowing if it worked or not. It is quite frustrating as a crafter that many of the crafting things we need are ridiculously expensive. Well, exactly, right? Now, my floor loom that I've got, which is my drawer loom, did cost that kind of money, but was A, brand new, B, guaranteed to work, and C, well, all the bits were there, you know. And it's a drawer loom. Now, a drawer loom is far superior to, it's manual, but it is far superior. So with that in mind, don't get me wrong, kind of very happy with it. But it was still an awful lot of money. In the room behind me that you can't see, is round about £10,000, well, slightly over that, of weaving loom, because I've got 2 floor looms in it. It's a ridiculous amount of money. And it is not ideal. It really is not. But they also see us coming. If I tell you that a warping board is a picture frame with lumps of broom handles sticking out of it, it does not have to be square. That is very important. It's not like it's got to be rectangular. It could be a parallelogram. It could have a lean to it. What does matter is that the broom handles are perpendicular and don't lean in. That they are absolutely parallel and perpendicular to the base, right? that's usually nearly £200 for a picture frame with a few lumps of broom handle in it. So a couple of lumps of 2x4 joined at the corner with some pegs shoved in it, £200. They see you coming. I can't show you it because it's behind a big pile of stuff at the moment, but I've got, in essence, a bookcase with not much better skewers than the skewers that I made my bobbins from in. So it's got little prongs on it that is supposed to be used for putting cones on so that you can mass wind on ends to your weaving loom. So if I tell you it's about 4 foot high, it's got 3 shelves, it's got 21 cup hook holders on it, so the little eyelet, river eyelet things, so you can put thread through it. How much do you reckon for? It's probably, yeah, it's pretty much square actually, so go 4 foot wide, 4 foot tall, 3 shelves. How much? Bear in mind the eyelets work out at like less than £1, right? If you didn't say £580, you were wrong. For a bookshelf with no back, so just up, over, down and shelves, no back so things can fall through the back, with prongs that when they came didn't fit the holes, and the company who provided them said you got the wrong size prongs. You sent them, they were in your kit. So I then had to buy, on top of that, the correct size prongs. I've got a warping frame that goes on the back of my loom. It is a thing of beauty because it isn't a picture frame. It is. This will bite you even harder. I've got, as I said, it's to make the back of my loom into a warping frame. So it's literally 2 sticks with prongs sticking out, with broom handles sticking out on it, and it's got 6 posts. So there's 12 lumps of broom handles, so it's about 1 broom handle chopped into 6-inch chunks and holes drilled in the bits of wood that you then bolt onto the back of the loom. So it's literally 2 sticks, bolt holes and a couple of bolts. That was nearly £300, and the broom handle did not fit in the holes. I had to sand the holes out. They know how to charge. When it comes to crafting, they know how to charge. And it's why I kind of desperately want to do 3D printing, because there are so many things that you feel you could do. I mean, I was sitting there last night. I've got a bolster pillow, which is basically a long sausage, right? It's quite a big sausage. Mine's a metre long. But, you know, it's the same. If you look at embroidery, tapestry, stroke, cross-stitch, tension frames, all it truly is 2 uprights with a long bit of broom handle that goes across the top, and stapled onto it, no more complicated than staples, stapled onto it is a bit of bias tape, top and bottom. And then in the corners, they've made kind of like a circle shape with a bit of a gap with a bolt in it so that you can tighten it. They're 100 and something quid. And you're sitting there going, there are 8-year-olds doing wood shop at school who could probably make that. How is it so expensive? And it pains me, and this is why I try and encourage people to try crafts on a cheaper level, because it should not have to cost you half your salary for the year to get going. And the one thing I do like about spinning is that you can try spinning without horrendous expense. Well, I'm the daughter of a carpenter, so I have the knowledge. I just don't have the tools. And if I tell you the tools for woodworking are just as stupid. But it is one of those things is that... So I was thinking about my bolster cushion. Now, my bolster cushion, as I said, it's about a metre... It's something like 70... I think it's about 80 centimetres long. So 80 centimetres long this way. And the circumference is about 95 centimetres. Right? So it's huge. Well, I haven't got anything that I can really rest it on to work. And I was thinking how, well, if I had a 3D printer, it's really not that hard. Because I know the arc of the thing. I can mathematically work out the arc for it to nestle in. I then kind of square off the corner, so I print a back. I put some lattice work in between to give it strength, and you know, obviously seal in all the edges. But you don't have to. You could have it with the holes so that, you know, it could just be two sides sitting straight next to each other. And then on the edge, you have one that has like the anti-T shape and one that's T-shaped, so you can slot them together and make kind of left and right ends. You make two the same, and now you've got something you can set them in. You know, make holes in them or something so that you've got a method of joining them together. Ta-da. But all I need is a 3D printer. Except all I need is a 3D printer. You know, 500 quid. Well, I could make it out of wood, but I don't have the tools for that either. Not really. Because I'd want one of those bench drills rather than a hand drill. I'd need a router to go around the edges so that I didn't constantly, you know, slice my fingers in half. And I'd need probably a bit of a bandsaw to chop the shape out. Well, in doing that, I've just spent about £2,500 for the sake of two ends for for a bolster cushion that cost me 35 quid. It seems to be frightening that no matter what you do, there is always a catch. And I think it's quite sad because it really does put people off trying things. Because everywhere they go, they might be able to get this portion cheap or at a reasonable price, but not the rest of it. Anyway, I'm looking at this, and this square in the middle has always been my nemesis. And there's no real reason for it. It just always has. And in part because it uses the most bobbins. And it gets really crowded on my pillow. And I am going to cave for the day. I will be back in calculation. 24, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, I didn't count that right. In about 35, 36 hours. In that I'll be around about 10, 11, 12-ish tomorrow night, my time. And for your record, it's 5 PM here. But I'm getting hungry. Getting rather hungry. It is. Friday is my takeout day. I look forward to this. It is my celebration of having survived another week at work. And I think I know what I fancy for tea. It's not good for me, but I only do it once a week. And it's not like I eat that much of it. I just happen to really like it. So I'm gonna break off and order me some food and guzzle my way through. Well, it is that kind of thing, right? Sometimes you get to the end of the working week and frankly, it feels like it's a miracle. I'm sure I will. As long as they're not closed, the lot I'm thinking of, it'll be good. Some weeks, though, you get to the end of the working week, and frankly, it's a miracle that either you're not in prison for killing people or that you're still alive, one or the other. And this week has kind of felt like an uphill battle. Oh, it reminds me. You've reminded me. I've got to tell my mate his test box is dead. Um, um, he's just written, "Oh, I so need to sleep. How have my databases been?" Because he's a database guy, and I've written back, "They're fine, but your test box is 100% dead." So I shall see what he says. I don't actually know what happened to it, but it is absolutely crackered. And I don't believe it's recoverably crackered. I think it's gonna. If you want it back, we're gonna have to restore it from a backup. I can't just wave a magic wand and Liz fix it, which is quite unusual, given what it is. No, you won't. Wait till he says. Yeah. Anyway, on that note, so I'm going to love you and leave you, and I appreciate you being here, all of you. It does mean a lot that you come to see me, because while I arguably am recording this mostly for my own posterity to document to myself the journey that I have taken, how far I've come, and the fun and the joys, or sometimes, quite often, the lack thereof along the way. I mean, there is rather infamously the video of me losing my marbles and breaking down and absolutely being sectionable on the day. Those kind of videos, so they're not always pride. But it is for me to, while I don't do them to teach you how to do it, I am quite happy to share how things work. I'm doing this because it's great to have you guys to talk to while I do it and to document it. And the fact that you come is unexpected, frankly. So I do very much appreciate that you're here. You do mean a lot to me, all of you, even the ones who don't talk. Yes, I'm talking to the rest of you. It does. It really does matter that you're here. So, well, I know a number of you take the time to do your own crafts while I do this, and it is the digital equivalent of a knitting circle that we all turn up, talk crap, and make things. And it doesn't have to be the same things. It's nice when you discuss things. I mean, yesterday we discussed knitting, and I demonstrated some left-handed knitting because it really is quite revolutionary. That kind of thing is the having a discussion about something else, bouncing ideas about, can you combine them? Can you, because it is quite surprising sometimes how a number of hobbies that kind of are different kind of aren't. And if you actually look at a lot of crochet patterns, they can represent very much what we make in lace. They are a version of that, just done in a completely different way. And just as needle lace is done in a different way, but needle lace and crochet actually have a lot in common towards the end. I mean, obviously there can be significant difference. It's been... I've got to reply before I forget. So yes, I enjoy talking to other crafters because sometimes your skills in one craft can make learning a new one a lot easier, if only you knew. So yes, it is. I really do love having you here. So thank you for coming. And if you can come tomorrow, that'll be great. I will be back probably similar time-ish Sunday, ish, because obviously I don't want to get up too early on a Sunday. So it does depend on kind of when I got up. But if if Twitch doesn't tend to ping you, I do recommend joining our Discord, because I put out a Discord notice every time I stream, so it will notify you if you let it. So that's always a good thing. Just so that you have that. Hang on. Ooh, helps if you type in the right box, woman. Yeah, there you go. So, do feel free to join the Discord. It is not exactly packed full of people. You are free to share your crafting endeavours in our Discord, for we will celebrate them all. And it doesn't matter what kind of craft you do, whether it's digital art, whether it's sculpting, drawing, photography. Although if you digitally edit your pictures, but it's still an art, it's still a craft, it still takes skill, but they're not photos if you've edited them. Thank you for that, Amy. I know you agree. Yes. But, you are free to post all your things. You can ask if anyone knows an answer to a problem, because it's nice to have a little bit of a community. And, but as I say, it's quite quiet, so, it's not like you're going to get spammed to hell and back. And if we do get spammers, I'll probably kill them. So, because, well, it's a quiet community because you're quite small. So, yeah. But I look forward to seeing you. Hopefully you'll all come back. And I shall be back, as I say, late tomorrow, because I do a late stream to give some of the American side of the world a bit of a chance to not have to turn up at stupid o'clock in the morning. So, or at lunchtime, that they get a bit of an evening option. It's the main reason I do it. So, I shall see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.